Greetings, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. Tonight's guest is going to be Ed Komarek, one of my favorite ufologists out there. Ed comes with 40 plus years of experience in the world of UFOs and ET and exopolitics. And we're going to be kind of talking about exopolitics tonight. Mainly around the citizens' hearings that are being led by Stephen Bassett, and also the Sirius movie that just came out, Dr. Stephen Greer, of course, behind that. It seems that there's been some controversy out there as far as who we should be supporting as far as our UFO leaders, and Ed's going to talk to us about that. So we're going to take a 30-second break, and we're going to be right back. So stay tuned and don't go anywhere. Ed Komarek is coming up.
What people need to understand is the secrecy around UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence really has nothing to do with ETs. It has to do with humans and the power that is resting in large corporations and financial interests that do not want you to know the truth. And here it is. The truth is that not only are we not alone, but that for 100 years, the advanced sciences and technologies dating back to the time of Tesla, Faraday, T. Townsend Brown, and others have had technologies that would liberate the world from the slavery of our current macroeconomic system.
As I said, tonight's guest is Ed Komarek, and this is his second appearance actually on Topic UFO. He was one of our very first guests, to be honest with you. Tonight, I wanted to talk to Ed about an article that he posted on his blog regarding supporting the UFO leaders. And right now, there's two big things going on in the UFO world. There's the citizens' hearings, which is being ran by Stephen Bassett. And then, of course, there's the Sirius movie, which just came out, Dr. Stephen Greer. So we're going to be talking about those things as well as we mix into this Follow the UFO Leaders. So let me introduce him right now. Mr. Ed Komarek, are you out there, sir?
Hi, Rick. Good to be on.
Well, thanks for taking the time to come talk to us tonight. As you know, you posted this article on your blog back on April 16th, and then you followed it up on Facebook. It seemed like you were a little concerned that you might get some grief from the article, and I'll like to talk to you about that too, if you did get grief. But basically, your thought in this article was that we in the UFO greater circles need to follow and support our UFO leaders. And I was just wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about what you were talking about when you made that comment?
I thought Paula Harris, made a note on Facebook that we should support our quarterbacks, and I feel the same way. The problem that we have is there's people quite often want to criticize the people that are pulling the wagon, and maybe those people can do a better job, but I don't see them doing it. I mean, we're always going to have problems with whoever is pulling the wagon, but I don't see much point in throwing stones and make it more difficult for them to do the job. And what's going on here is this is political action. The citizens' hearing is political action to try to get mainstream attention, and also later alternative media attention. I think it's going to be turned into a documentary. And Sirius, the movie, I thought Stephen Greer did a pretty good job on the movie. He made a pretty big gamble on the little humanoid that he did all the genetic testing on and everything else. We'll just have to see how that pans out. For me, I would rather, like in my book, UFOs, Exopolitics, and New World Disorder, I used a lot of cases, figuring at least one or two probably would blow up on me, but the rest of the cases would carry me. And so I'm very much support people as long as they're reasonably credible. There are some people who claim to be leaders that are not credible at all, and have a problem with those, and I will, stand up to those people and try to get them to get out of the way. But I think Stephen Greer is doing, did a good job with this Sirius movie. I saw a bootleg copy of it on the internet, and it pretty much summed up his life's work, just like I did with my book. And unfortunately, I don't see a lot of mainstream press on that. The citizens' hearing has had some mainstream press, but I'm hoping there'll be some serious mainstream press with not too bad of a negative spin on the citizens' hearing, so that'll pull in more press for when the event actually happens.
Well, let me ask you first of all about this citizens' hearing that's being led by Stephen Bassett. Now, everything's got its good and its bad. And just the fact that this is getting some press, it's getting people to hear the information that might not necessarily hear it regularly. But now I do see that you made a note that they are paying members of Congress $20,000 each to attend the hearing. Is that actually correct?
To actually be on the panel and replicate what a real hearing would be in Congress. And some people have a problem with that, but I don't see how any other way you could do it. I mean, these people in Congress aren't going to get up and take the grief and the ridicule, unless they're being paid a substantial amount of money. I mean, that just goes with the territory that we have today in Congress. Things in this society run on money, and so I don't see any other way they could have done it. I don't think you're going to, get members of Congress to volunteer, to put up with all the grief, with nothing in return.
And I agree. I mean, it's hard to say. It does put a tinge to it, I think, but I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens there. Now, this citizens' hearing, would I be correct in saying that it's steering away from your typical UFO sightings, and it's talking more about exopolitics and ET contact? Is that what these hearings are all about, or?
I think it's going to be pretty basic, from what I can tell, pretty basic material, by whistleblowers and also UFO researchers. So I don't think it's going to steer too much into the actual extraterrestrial contact. I think they're going to try to stick with, documents. Richard Dolan's going to be speaking, for instance, so they've got, credible researchers there. They're probably going to be referring to government documents and just building a case that, that there is a UFO cover-up and that extraterrestrials most possibly do exist.
Well, and when does that take place? Do you know?
I think it's in that article. It's the last of this month and the beginning of the next month. They're going to be going for 3 days, and I think they're going to show the Sirius movie on the second day for anybody that wants to see it there.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
That might make things a little more complicated. You can figure that the mainstream media is going to spin this with any weak link. So they're going to use, and they have already, the paying the panel members of Congress, $20,000 each, and ignore the strong links. And I don't know how the Sirius thing's going to play with the little humanoid. Apparently, from the report that the Stanford University people made, one of the individuals there said he was reasonably certain that the mother was Chilean. So I don't know. It's going to be a lot of controversy around that, and I can foresee, the Washington AP, Washington Post, New York Times, Los Angeles Times gang spinning this just like they did Operation Right to Know when we held demonstrations in Washington. They deliberately, with me about 2 weeks ahead of time, the Washington AP got in contact with me, and they did an article, and they deliberately confused the facts. And I called them on it, talked to the Harry Rosenthal's secretary. She said she would tell him. And when we actually had the demonstration, he did the same thing all over again. We said we were asking for. They said we had 20,000 pages of the government's own documents that proved there was a UFO cover-up, and he said we were looking for 20,000 pages of the government's own documents. So it was a deliberate act. And then what he did is he was really frazzled running around, and he found one flaky individual, and then he wrote a whole article to string onto our main article after we had spent all this effort to stay credible and just stick with the documents and everything. And then what happens is it goes out on the Washington Post, the Washington AP, the New York Times repeats it, and then the Los Angeles Times also repeats it, and that sets the tone for the conversation for the rest of the mainstream media. Fortunately, we had CNN on our side. John Holloman at the time, CNN's crack reporter who was in Iraq, during the first Iraq War, and he was a friend of mine in Tallahassee's, and he was there, and he interviewed us, and he did a very good job. So that went out, and so in spite of what the Washington AP tried to do, a lot of the newspapers dropped the silly trailer that they had on the end of the article to try to discredit the whole thing. And SETI researcher Dr. Frank Drake, possible MJ-12 operative, was up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning having debunked UFOs.
Wow. So, in talking about this Sirius movie, I think probably by the time this video that we're making right now airs, everybody will have seen the picture of the, I believe it's pronounced Atacama entity or humanoid. When you first look at the picture of it, it almost looks fake. It really does. But if you look at the CAT scans and everything else, you get a little different view on things.
You may not have seen it. I saw a bootleg copy, and they actually hired people, scientists from Stanford. I think it's Stanford Research Institute, to do all this. So it's very scientifically done. They took 4 different samples and went to 4 different groups around the world, and so it was done very, very scientifically, and they ruled out any kind of an animal or a fetus or some of these other things. And there's still, the researcher was still kind of stumped, as to what it was, because it had mostly human DNA, but it had some other types of DNA that really got him thinking about that. The software programming that they use for genetics might have to be adjusted because of this situation.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, when I was saying it looked fake, I mean, it looked fake if you only look at that one picture of it, because the humanoid is so straight. It's like in a laying down position. Now, I'm sure they're going to be able to do more tests. I think there's more tests that they're planning to do on it, right?
Well, they've got a pretty good chunk of genome to work with already, and this is all described in the Sirius movie. And but what he does is he blends this in all through the Sirius movie, and so he's really taking quite a gamble that this is going to pan out. But they showed a lot of details. For instance, the skull, it had been apparently killed. It was about 6 years old, and apparently been killed. It showed an indentation on the skull at about 6 years old. And there's a lot of really serious, high-level scientific research that has been done on it, and is going to continue to be done on it for the next year. So they're still working and duplicating the findings with these other groups that this one individual at Stanford has done.
And correct me if I'm wrong again, but the movie, the actual movie, is not so much trying to prove the existence of UFOs or ETs. The movie looks at the technology, the reversed engineered technology that is the real driver behind this conspiracy, I guess you would say. Is that true?
Yeah, what Stephen does is he pretty well spells it out how he got into this, what happened to him. He and his secretary and another individual all coming down with cancer at the same time when after that, I think it was after they had their hearing, with whistleblowers, and a lot of the things that happened to him. And as he became more and more informed, and he even fingers Bilderberg, just like I have in my book, as to where this is coming from. It's way beyond governments. It's the global elite, or this globalist mafia that's made up of European royalty, international bankers, and industrialists. And they're loosely affiliated with the Bilderberg, the core part of the Bilderberg group. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the peripheral people that come to the Bilderberg meetings don't have any idea what's really going on with the core group, but the core group has a lot to do with why we have this cover-up. And like I pointed out in my book, there are three different reasons. One is there's trillions of dollars being made reverse engineering these technologies. I mean, we're going after their meal ticket, so to speak. Mm-hmm. There's also trillions of dollars being made keeping established, like the fossil fuels industry and business, even after it's become obsolete. And then, maybe most importantly, just like what's happening in Syria, once the people had modern communications, they realized that people in other parts of the world had it a lot better than they did, and they want that for their country. But the elite in their country are willing to fight to the death to maintain their privileged status. And I'm afraid that the global elite are willing to do the same thing. They're willing to destroy this whole planet and humanity in the process of trying to keep their privileged position in society. And a big factor in that is the UFO cover-up and the making of trillions of dollars reverse engineering these technologies.
Do you think that this core group within Bilderberg? Bilderberg.
It's named after the Bilderberg Hotel in the Netherlands. It was formed in 1954. The CIA was involved in it. I believe Dulles, the head of the CIA, was involved, and so it just reeks of. It's like the Nazis lost. It's like the Nazis lost the Second World War overtly, but then they began to go to Plan B, which was to covertly create this new so-called New World Order, which was the same thing as what Hitler was talking about for the Third Reich. And there's some very dangerous individuals involved in this, and as Stephen Greer pointed out, they don't have a problem with killing anybody that gets in their way if they have to.
Well, do you believe these folks already have this advanced technology and are just keeping it covered up, or are they just trying to get other people from getting it?
Oh, well, you got to realize that these very wealthy individuals, their sons and daughters work in these in the intelligence community in Europe and in the United States. So when the crash happened at Roswell in 1947, they knew immediately what was going on, and they went from collections and analysis to issues and implications. And so a lot of the UFO community is still stuck in collections and analysis. They don't know, if a UFO crashed in Roswell or if they're extraterrestrial or anything, but these people do. They know this, and they are acting on it to protect their own interests, their own special interests, and so they've launched a covert war on the consciousness of the people in order to maintain their privileged position in society and to profit from access to these technologies. So it's just like Admiral Wilson, and this was verified by Edgar Mitchell, and I think Richard Dolan too. When Wilson heard, I think somebody told Wilson about this program, and Wilson went to check it out, and he was met by corporate lawyers, and they said that they wouldn't have contacted him but they wanted to know where he had even got the information that this program even existed, because it was what you call an unacknowledged special access program that nobody was supposed to know about. And so it goes right, so the whole top secret classification system in the United States and in other countries in the Western world, the people at the top of the pyramid are not people, government officials or elected officials. They're these very wealthy, powerful individuals, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and this old money, this old mafia that goes back for hundreds of years. The Rothschilds actually financed the East Indian Company and whatever, and a lot of the wars that went on in India, and so involved in the smuggling, of opium for gold and silver over there. And the Bushes, have been involved. Bushes were involved. Their ancestors were involved in the slave trade, and that's why you have the Skull and Bone Society and whatever. And so you're talking about not the new mafia from Italy. You're talking about old mafia that are worth trillions of dollars. It's been estimated by some that the Rothschild family is worth $100 trillion, and this money is hidden in offshore accounts and all in foundations in a lot of different ways. And the second one down would be maybe 10 trillion with the Rockefeller family, which is much smaller than what the Rothschilds have, and it looks like that the Rothschilds actually control the Rockefellers. So these guys financed the kings and queens of Europe, for hundreds of years. And so the kings and queens of Europe and whatever, they want to return to a feudal society in which they had hundreds of years ago. And this is their new world order, the global plantation, in which we're the serfs that work their plantation, and they maintain their privileged role in society. And this is where this is all coming from. It's way beyond governments, and Stephen Greer spelled that out really good in his movie for the general public, which I really like.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So what do you think Stephen's main point in this movie is? What's his main point that he's trying to do here? Is he just trying to enlighten people, open people's eyes? What do you think is his main goal behind this movie?
Well, what he's doing is this is some of the controversy, that some of the donors paid for this movie, thinking that it would be a strictly disclosure movie and it would be free like on the internet. But what Stephen Greer is doing is he's using it as a marketing, not only as a disclosure tool, but also as a marketing tool to get more money for the experiments they're doing in exotic energy sources, where he's actually tackling the meal ticket of these corporations and these global elite, because they're destroying this planet with the fossil fuels industry and suppressing all these exotic energy technologies that have to do with UFO extraterrestrial type propulsion systems.
Well,
And
I could see how people, might be a little upset. I'm not sure how that communication could have got mixed up. I mean, they must have been told what the plan was for the movie. Um, or maybe they just assumed. Maybe they just assumed. I don't know.
well, I don't think Stephen was really clear about it. I think he should have been a lot. He should have been a lot clearer about it. He was told that people were told that this was an important disclosure movie, and it was completely financed through cloud financing, I guess, through the internet.
Right. Right.
And so, but he's attacking the very heart of the cover-up, which is has a lot to do with the fossil fuels industry and the reverse engineering of these technologies. So he's out there on the front lines, taking on these people and putting his own life at risk. I have no doubt about it. There's a lot of people who have died because of what they tried to come out with and whatever. I mean, we're dealing with a powerful, well entrenched global mafia that's been in the business for hundreds of years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Being the front man of something like this is dangerous,
Yeah,
to
and
say the
also,
least.
yeah, he mentioned that he attended the Lawrence Rockefeller thing back a while back with the Clintons and all that, and he asked Lawrence, why didn't Lawrence get this information out? And Lawrence said he wanted him to do it, and Stephen Greer said, yeah, because he was expendable. And I think Lawrence Rockefeller is in a sticky situation too, because I think he wants it out, but he can't get it out because of the other parts of the Rockefeller family, especially David Rockefeller. So he's actually, stimulated and kind of come in behind Stephen Greer to do what he can't do. So, these families aren't monolithic, that they have people in these families that want the truth to come out, and there's other ones that want to exploit it to the nth degree.
So what you're saying, I mean, getting back to the original purpose of the article on your blog, so beyond all this bad press that these people may get, Stephen Bassett, Stephen Greer, we should, as good ufologists, support these folks' actions, because they are doing their best and are taking on quite a job.
Yeah, and it goes with the territory. We're going to get trashed in the mainstream press. We've always been trashed and marginalized in the mainstream press, and the CIA is doing it. CIA has actually come out and said that they have their agents in all the mainstream media, both broadcast and print, and all the major newspapers, news wires, and everything else. So it's going to be spun in a negative fashion, but we've got to, and so we've been forced into a ghetto here the last 70 years, and we got to break out of that ghetto. And there's going to be some static, and we're going to be criticized in the mainstream media. Same thing happened to Operation Right to Know. It's going to be the 20th anniversary of Operation Right to Know coming up on the 3rd of July, and we went through this whole process ourselves, but any news is better than no news in the mainstream media, because it'll get people to thinking and poking around. That's what happened with Operation Right to Know. You notice some programs like Sightings and whatever came out after our demonstrations, and and whatever, because we got the media's attention, and hopefully they're going to break out of the ghetto again with Sirius and hopefully the citizens hearing. Otherwise, it will still keep working in the alternate media.
Well, listen, Ed, we're just about out of time here, but I wanted to give you a chance to give us the name of your book again, and also of your blog site.
Okay. My book is UFO, Exopolitics, and the New World Disorder. It's available on Amazon in both print and on Kindle. And my blog is exopolitics.blogspot.com/. And you can, anybody, I accept all friendships on Facebook. You can just friend me on Facebook, and I post daily UFO material and some conspiracy material on my wall.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Ed, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us tonight.
Thank you.
I think it was an interesting conversation. I'm going to be watching the movie Sirius here very soon, and I'll let you know what I think.
Okay, it's popping up all over the place in bootleg copies. You can watch it off the off the internet, but they take it down pretty fast after it's put up. I don't know what happened with the Thrive movie was that they tried to make people pay for it, but there was so much bootleg, and they eventually gave up and just went ahead and made it available.
It's pretty hard these days to keep anything from being copied.
Yeah, and the thing is, don't try to swim upriver. It's better to go ahead and swim downriver and make use of it and make it free on your website rather than other people putting it free on their websites.
Yeah, get the traffic anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Ed. Well, listen, thanks very much again, and we will stay in touch.
Okay, catch up with you later.
Okay, good night, Ed.
Okay, good night.
Good night, everyone.
The answer is to keep it.